Welcome to this special edition of the Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft here in our studios in West Bloomfield Township. Although we're broadcasting all throughout the state of Michigan, usually Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. This week we have the week off, so here we are with the best of the Megacast, where we'll put together a compilation of recent interviews with some of our favorite guests about very interesting topics affecting us here in Oakland County and all across the state of Michigan for you to enjoy for this entire week. Before we get into all of our interviews, let's go over some of the regular resources that we have available to you. Again, we're broadcasting all throughout Oakland County on a number of different television, radio, and other media outlets. You can learn more information about everywhere that we're broadcasting on TV, on the radio, on the web by going to our website and visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast. There we have links to each and every one of our partnering television, radio, and web outlets so that you can learn more about all the other great original programming that they're producing outside of the Megacast in its 2-hour time slot Monday through Friday. Learn more about who they serve and the ways that they serve their respective communities, and enjoy some other programming from creators all across the state of Michigan on outlets such as My Michigan TV. You can also, on our Megacast page at civiccentertv.com, find our interviews and our full shows all on demand. We'll have them posted there for you, usually by mid to late afternoon on the day of those shows respectively, so that you can view the show at your own pace. You can view it on your own time, because we know it's tough to tune in the early portion of your work day, Monday through Friday, to tune into our live show, and it's a 2-hour show. That's a lot of time to dedicate to one specific show each and every day, so you can take it at your own pace, watch the interviews that are most relevant to you or most interesting to you on your own time, or join our full show whenever it's most convenient in your daily schedule. Again, all of that at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Then if you head over to our coronavirus page during our regular show weeks, each and every day we update that page with the most up-to-date news stories pertaining to COVID-19 and other top stories here in Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan, scouring different newspapers, different journalistic outlets from all across the state to make sure we're keeping you informed, not only on the COVID-19 front, but on all fronts as well. And then we also have information talking more about COVID-19. We have links directly to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the state of Michigan's Health and Human Services Department, as well as the Oakland County Health Division's COVID-19 webpage, so you can stay up to date on the spread of COVID-19, on variants such as Delta and Omicron, on precautionary measures that you can take to protect yourself, your family, your workplace, and others out in the community, as well as information on where you and others can get vaccinated or get your booster shots, or just learn more information about the vaccines, about the boosters, and why they are important in preventing the spread of COVID-19. That's all on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Well, as we head into our best of the Megacast episode today, I want to start off with a topic that unfortunately is becoming more and more pertinent to our communities as time goes on, and that is overdoses. We were recently joined by Tracy Chirikas from the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities to talk to us about why addictions are becoming more common, why overdosing is becoming more common, not only in our communities, but throughout the United States, as well as some methods that are available, including Narcan training out in the community to help prevent overdoses from becoming deadly, while also focusing on ways that we as a community can support those facing substance use or misuse or abuse issues to prevent overdoses as well. Joining us now is Tracy Chirikas. She is the Community Relations Manager and a peer recovery coach with the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, as we've seen a dramatic increase in drug overdoses over the past year, with the CDC reporting a 19% increase over the 12 months from April 2019 to 2020, with more than 2,900 Michiganders having died of drug overdoses last year. Tracy, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate having you on as well. So give us a little bit of a rundown of what the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities does to help prevent drug misuse and drug abuse, and of course the overdoses that often, unfortunately, are a result of that misuse and abuse.
Thank you for that. Well, you know, the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities is a very multifaceted faceted prevention organization. Forgive me, I guess I don't have my lips on today. So with that meaning, we bring forth a really strong prevention programming to equip our youth with coping skills and resiliency building skills. But we also have a recovery support arm, and that is where we work with individuals in recovery, those who may still be struggling with addiction, and their family members. As we're talking today on overdose deaths, yes, they have been up exponentially from 2019. Oakland County, for example, just to give you an idea, nationally speaking, in 2019, the nation experienced a 4.5% increase in accidental overdose deaths. Oakland County did not. We actually decreased during 2019, which showed that our efforts with our Save a Life program out in our community is impactful and it works. Unfortunately, as we all know, with COVID and what that pandemic did, it put us behind the 8 ball in an arena that, quite frankly, we weren't accustomed to. We had built this super strong community-wide program and quickly needed to adapt by pivoting to a virtual environment. We did increase from 2019 here in Oakland County during 2020, and that number was 255 individuals just in Oakland County who lost their struggle with substance use disorder. We became very creative, not just with those virtual trainings, but we wanted to connect with our communities. People who struggle with addiction need connection. And that was one of the driving forces that individuals found themselves in. And we created this drive up, drive through, very abbreviated, but impactful and effective Narcan training program for our communities. And we launched it out into some of the hardest hit communities. As a matter of fact, we're doing one today, which is why we're so excited to be a part of your program. We are doing that drive up, drive through right here at the Oakland Community Health Network building, located at 5505 Corporate Drive in Troy, right in the main entrance. You don't have to leave your car. We will have trainers coming right to your car. You're going to get a Save a Life bag, which includes a box of 2 doses of 4 milligram intranasal Narcan, as well as being trained and equipped on how to administer it. It is super safe and simple. And just this morning, when I was checking my emails very early, we had an individual who saved a life yesterday. So this program works. We are replacing her kit for free. We just want to get this information out. We want as many community members trained prior to this holiday as we possibly can. We are experiencing an uptick in accidental overdoses since October 1, and they are continuing to climb. So the more people that come out and just really understand what the signs and symptoms are, how easy and safe and simple it is to use this product, they too can help us save lives.
So for those that may not be familiar, you mentioned recognizing the signs and symptoms of an overdose being so critical. Of course, if you are someone that's trained to administer Narcan, recognizing those symptoms is the critical first step to administration. For those that may not be familiar, what does an overdose look like? Of course, it's going to be it may be different from one situation to another, but what are some of those key signs and symptoms so that if someone witnesses an overdose but maybe doesn't have that Narcan training or isn't in possession of Narcan, can take action immediately and help this person?
Fantastic. So first off, we need to understand that we are all susceptible. You know, we have to stop putting ourselves in silos. We as human beings don't treat our pain very well, and we wait to the last minute, and then we overtake these medications. So some of those signs and symptoms we really want you to be aware of, to look at, would be an individual may start to nod out in front of you. That could be where they're sitting in front of you talking and they simply nod out, or they're standing in front of you and they nod out. But when they're standing, the body tries to naturally balance itself, so there'll be a little tip backwards. But when those eyes open, we want you to look at the pupils. The pupils will become extremely pinpoint. And when that occurs, we want you to understand that that means an opiate is in that person's system or a pain relieving medication. Opiate-based medications or street drugs are the only drugs that cause those pupils to become pinpoint. Their breathing may start to become very shallow or none at all. They might start to turn pale or blue, and usually you start to turn pale, and then it will go to a blue hueish. People of color, you want to pull back that cheek and look at that inner tissue on the inside of their cheek. If you hear gurgling sounds, or if you've ever known anyone with sleep apnea, it sounds like that. And it is very critical that we get them the basic skills to them right away to help reverse the effects. Usually, if you don't have your Narcan on you, the mere fact that you can recognize these signs and symptoms will allow you to quickly dial 911 and let them know where this individual is. If you're in a parking lot of a big box store, look up. What aisle am I in? What kind of vehicle am I standing behind? What am I clothed in? So that EMS and first responders can find me quickly to get the aid necessary to the individual.
We're joined by Tracy Chirikas. She is and she's with the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. They're community relations manager and also a peer recovery coach, joining us today on the Megacast. And so, mentioned the signs and the symptoms of an overdose for those that may be seeing family or seeing friends this holiday season for the first time in a while. Maybe they haven't been keeping up with this family member or these friends, and they may be able to recognize some changes that may be evident of drug misuse or a substance abuse issue. What are some signs that they can look out for so that they can either talk to this loved one of theirs and see if there is a problem, or maybe even seek help for them?
Well, let's break that down into categories of human beings.
Okay.
So if we're talking about elderly, they were one of the ones most isolated during the whole pandemic. So we really want to look at, has their pill taking management changed? And if it has, are they more forgetful? So you may want to invest in a different style of pill dispensing equipment for the elderly, where it literally has an alarm on it, and their pill tab will not open until that alarm goes off. That is a super simple, effective way to help keep our seniors safe. For our other loved ones, start paying attention to perhaps their hygiene. If they were always, very model-esque in their mannerisms, meaning hygienically clean and always matching, but now all of a sudden they don't seem to care, and their hygiene is a little less manicured, pay attention there, check in with them, see if they need help. It might not always be drugs. It could be mental health issues, because when we think about this may be the first Thanksgiving since the pandemic that we've been together in a really long time. So people don't always know how to step in to that scenario. They're a little bit more fearful, and it may cause some anxiety, maybe a little depression. If that seems to be a little more than normal, just sit and really listen to that individual and see how you can't help them. If they are taking medications that they didn't take prior to, ask them about that, and ask them if they're seeing their doctor regularly. Sometimes we just need to be heard as people, and we're all navigating the after effects of COVID very differently from one another, and it doesn't make any one person more right or less right. It just means we're human and we're trying to navigate it differently.
We're joined by Tracy Chirikas. She is the Community Relations Manager and a peer recovery coach at the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, joining us on the Megacast. And so, of course, we've heard the news recently about a dramatic rise in overdose deaths in Michigan and across the U.S., about a 19% increase between 2020 and currently over the past 12 months, with 2,900 total overdose deaths here in the state of Michigan during the last year. But here in Oakland County, as you mentioned earlier on, the numbers actually decreased. So differently than other areas, what's Oakland County doing that is setting them apart in this regard? And while other areas are increasing in overdose deaths, we here in Oakland County are experiencing less overdose deaths than before.
Well, let me correct that, because in 2019, we did decrease in Oakland County.
Okay.
We did increase in 2020, and we are remaining stable to 2020's number for 2021. But you know what? That's still not good enough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. But I did want to make sure we corrected that. I believe that as the Alliance continues their efforts, we are back in doing live trainings. We trained last week, for example, the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Department, and that's a group of individuals that we have been wanting to train, not West Bloomfield in particular, but we really thank them because they see different groups of people than other people. So if we can get every entity trained in how to recognize those signs and symptoms and not to be afraid to step into that environment to help save a life, that's the difference. That's the game changer as far as what's going on in Oakland County. We are all working together. We all want to save lives. And I do believe that now that we're back doing live trainings as well as virtual, that will still stay, but we're doing live and virtual as well as drive up, drive through. We're really trying to meet our communities in whatever area that they need help in to get this information, number one. But number two, we want to make sure that we equip them by having a Save a Life kit so that they can, in fact, save lives. In what we're seeing right now is it's taking more doses than what individuals are carrying. So it's very critical that they notify 911 in the event of those signs and symptoms.
We're joined by Tracy Chirikas. She is the Community Relations Manager and a peer recovery coach at the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, joining us today on the Megacast. And then, Tracy, just another few minutes with you. But I do want to ask, for those that are experiencing addiction themselves, often seeking help for them, there's a little bit of a blockage to making that first step because they're feeling a sense of embarrassment or even shame for their addiction. For those that may be feeling this way, what steps do you suggest, or what outlets are there for them to work to overcome those feelings and ultimately seek the help that they know that they need in those cases, or in other cases may not know that they really need?
Thank you for that opportunity. One of the greatest resources that we do have here in Oakland County is our Sober Support Unit. As a parent of a loved one who struggled with substance use disorder, I want to assure you that there is hope, and you can, and oftentimes so many do recover from substance use disorder. It's about taking that first step. And you can find out what avenues and so many resources that are available to you by going to the Sober Support Unit. It is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's located at the Crisis and Resource Center at the 1200 North Telegraph location. You just walk in, you're going to be treated with so much dignity, grace, and compassion that you can't help but want to take that next step. You will get placed into treatment, oftentimes that very same day or the following morning, if you come in during, nighttime hours. You can go to any one of the police departments and connect up through Hope Not Handcuffs if that is what you would prefer to do. But you can also connect with the ride share program through the sheriff's group. all of us are working together. We care about you. We know your family loves you, and we know that there is help available to you. Inside of the Save a Life kits that you'll receive today when you come to training is an entire resource guide that gives you the now what next steps to take that will help you mitigate or navigate the stages of change that go for any of us trying to make a radical change in our lifestyle.
Well, Tracy, we thank you very much for joining us today. Before we let you go, anything else that would be important for our audience to be looking out for or to know at this time?
So, audience, if you could come to the 5505 Corporate Drive location today, get trained, because you just never know whose life you may be saving. It could be one of your loved ones. We welcome you and we encourage you, and we hope we see you today at our training. It's from 11:30 to 1:30. And without anything else, we just here at the Alliance want to wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Well, Tracy, we thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for the insight and the advice.
Thank you. Have a great holiday.
And a big thank you to Tracy Chirikas and all those over at the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities for their work out in the community, helping others to prevent overdoses from becoming deadly, but also training the community to recognize the signs of substance misuse and substance abuse, as well as the signs of overdose, and provide them with education on ways that they can help prevent these situations from becoming deadly right here in our community. Well, also recently we spoke to one Kegel Harbor woman who this winter season is hoping to keep everyone warm, not only in our communities, but those most affected by the winter in unfortunate situations such as homelessness or transience, by helping to collect winter materials such as coats, gloves, hats, and other warm materials that she can then bring down to those who are homeless, as well as to shelters in Detroit. We recently spoke to her, to Stacey Zakovich, about her efforts to put together a collection drive, as well as recruit people to then go with her in mid-December downtown to deliver these goods to different shelters and to the homeless as well. Joining us now is Stacey Zakovich, otherwise known as Stacey Renee. She's a motivational strategy speaker and a mindset life coach. And during this season, she'll be collecting new and gently used coats, gloves, mittens, boots, socks, and scarves for men, women, boys, and girls. And then we'll be going to Detroit this weekend to distribute them to the homeless as well as to many shelters. Stacey, thank you for being with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for the great intro, and I definitely nailed it.
Yeah, so that's what you're doing. You're collecting new and gently used clothing items and winter attire to help people out this season as we're getting into the thick of the winter season, or getting out of the fall and heading into the thick of the winter season after first big snow of the year over the past weekend. No better time than now to start this drive. So what prompted you specifically to make this effort, and what help are you looking for out in the community here in southeastern Michigan?
Well, thanks. There's a couple reasons that this all came about. One, from a past interview that I did, we talked about all the things that you have in your possession and how we really don't need as many things as we thought we needed. And so after my mom passed, I really realized that I need to kind of clean house. So that was a big breakthrough for me, knowing that I didn't need all the things that I had, especially clothing. And then the second reason is I have a friend, Sia Kupfer, and she sent me a message about, hey, they're going to be doing this clothing drive. Times are tough, which of course they are now more than ever. And if you have any things to donate, please consider giving them, to this great cause. And just, sometimes we just need that little extra push. And with the snow that just came, I'm sure everyone is scrambling to get what they have and, see what they have, what they don't have. And people are going to be going out and buying new things because we all grow, whether it's the COVID wave, whether you have small children and they're growing up and getting older. It's just kind of time to what's in your closet, what don't you need anymore, what no longer serves you. So that's kind of how it all came about. So we contacted a bunch of our friends. I've gotten numerous texts and messages saying that, hey, I have a lot of things that are just sitting around here, and it's been really well received so far.
We're joined by Stacey Zakovich on the Megacast, joining us as she is looking to collect gently used clothing items, particularly winter clothing items that she will then take into Detroit to the homeless as well as to shelters during the season. So you're looking to go down there on Saturday this week to distribute.
Actually, we did change the date.
Okay.
It is now going to be December 19th because we found that some people needed more time to collect items, and then working with sports schedules and school and holiday events, we thought Sunday would be the best, and it seemed to work out best with the shelters as well.
Okay, so December 19th, that will be the distribution day. You will go down to Detroit to many of the homeless individuals that will be in Detroit, as well as to many of the shelters as well, to distribute these goods. What are some of the different places in Detroit that you will plan on going? And how can people get involved in this with you, both before and on the distribution day as well?
Sure. So there's a couple of homeless shelters that SIA has been contacting and had communication with. And then we are going to get together, sort everything out, get it all organized. And if you think about it, is your closet packed with stuff that's destined for the donation bin? And here's a couple things to think about. Most of us barely even wear the stuff that we have. And of course, we're going to buy more things and, like new things, but what are you going to do with your old stuff? In fact, here's an interesting fact. About 70 new garments are bought every single year for one household family that has about 5 people in it. So if you think about that, 70 new items, it's almost, a new clothing item every single year, like every day. It's crazy to think about it that way. So donating your old clothes to charity might make you feel better, and then, and you're not putting them in the trash. But here's the thing I want you guys to think about. When you donate them, I found this out that sometimes they don't really go to where you think they go. So there's something called the clothing, what is it called? The clothing defect meth. And what happens is a lot of the things that you donate to the clothing go to the charity, but they're actually going to someone else in need, but they don't all go there. And sometimes they end up actually in the garbage, because who needs your old college sweatpants, right? I mean, people still have some respectability that they want. So every year, 25 billion textiles end up in North American landfills. Yep, that's clothing. And here are some reasons why. Because we're buying 400 more clothing things than we did in 1980. Stores are rapidly trying to restock, especially now more than ever, because they always want to bring out the latest and greatest for the clothing, right? Mm-hmm. So experts say that we are constantly in a fast fashion, and where we can actually buy things for less than what we used to be able to. And those buying habits lead to millions of unwanted clothing. So charities are either selling or giving away what they can not use anymore. And then there's actually a middleman, which I didn't know about until I did some research. There's a middleman, and it's a company that you've probably never heard of. And they go into these warehouses that's actually like football-sized fields of clothing, and it's all out there. They sort them and they distribute them to the unwanted clothes. So the middleman actually takes the clothing and develops it. And actually, Canada's biggest country that they donated to was Kenya. And then that secondhand clothing goes to like wherever you don't, just wherever. And so one thing that we forget is a lot of times your clothes, like I said, go into the trash, which is not a good thing. So think about it. Would you rather donate your clothes to somebody who is actually going to do something and actually take them down to a specific area that you know, or just put them into the big bins that you see, have them sorted or resell? And those people who really need clothes, it's harder for them to go in and buy. If you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So we want to kind of take that sting out for people, make it easy. It's just something that we're doing in our local area, and just to try and help people out, because it does feel good to help them, to bring some joy into them. And right now we could all use a little bit of extra joy.
We're joined by Stacey Zakovich, joining us on the Megacast. Her effort to collect new and gently used clothing items, especially those winter items like coats, gloves, mittens, boots, socks, and scarves for men, women, boys, and girls. And then she'll be just distributing that and her team of people December 19th in Detroit to the homeless as well as to many shelters. So, Stacey, leading up to December 19th, to that distribution day, just how many items or how many people are you hoping to get involved in this? And then on the distribution day, how many people do you believe that you're going to need to help distribute all these different clothing items to the homeless in Detroit as well as to these shelters?
Well, we've gathered quite a crew already from our own neighborhoods, and we are doing caravans of items. I know my whole family, including my husband, my daughter and son, and myself, are going to be going down. And I know that her family, and then, of course, a whole slew of our other friends are going to go down, because not only is it nice to physically take the clothing items to homeless shelters and people in need, but it's also good for children to see that people are in need and the importance of giving back, and how something is so important as a pair of jeans or a warm sweater or a coat and gloves that they can just go to their bins and they just put it on like they don't ever have a need. And it kind of gives them a different perspective and makes them appreciate more. And I know that Sia said that, you know, when she did this before, that they actually adopted a family and they took the items to the family's house and they didn't even have a Christmas tree. And her boys went home and actually rounded all the toys up that they're like, you know what, I don't need this. They need it more. And they actually went back to that house and took them more items because the boys really realized that they had it pretty good. And I think that today I'd like to show, I know my family, my children, that you have to work hard, but you also have to give. And to give makes you feel really good, and to be able to take these items that no longer fits them or they don't have a use for other people's, what is that saying, Tyler? Is other people's treasure, or what is it? Other people's, your junk is other people's treasures. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
So we're going to do caravans and just take it down and really have them see what we can do.
We're joined by Stacey Zakovich. She is a motivational strategy speaker and mindset life coach, joining us on the Megacast, also putting together an effort community-wide here in southeastern Michigan to collect new and gently used coats, gloves, boots, socks, gloves, mittens, and other winter attire for men, women, boys, and girls, and will help to distribute them in Detroit to the homeless as well as to shelters. That will be happening on December 19th, and the collection is now ongoing. And so, Stacey, if people want to get involved with your efforts here in the greater West Bloomfield community and Oakland County and here in southeastern Michigan, in the suburbs of Detroit or even in the city of Detroit, how can I get in contact with you best in order to get involved with this effort and join you on December 19th for distribution?
Sure. You can contact me if you'd like. Sia and I and some other people have no problems coming and picking it up from your doorstep. That would be the easiest thing. Just put it out. And you can contact or to send a text message to our phone number, 248-660-0464. Again, 248-660-0464. You can also email at Stacey, Stacie, Zot, at yahoo.com. And it's just, again, we want to make it easy for you. If you'd like to get involved, feel free to contact us and we can definitely pull you in and like to have you involved. I also had some people ask if they could just drop it off at their chamber office. And I said, absolutely. I'm involved with the Lakes Area Chamber, as well as the West Bloomfield Chamber. And I don't think that they would have any problem getting these donations and then contacting me, and I can easily swing by and pick it up.
And again, that phone number for those that want to get involved either in the distribution, in the collection, or both, 248-660-0464. That's 248-660-0464. Or emailing Stacey, Stacie, Zott, Z-O-T, at yahoo.com. That's Stacey, S-T-A-C-I-E, Z-O-T, at yahoo.com. Stacey, just another couple minutes with you. Anything else today that you'd like to say on this effort, or other things that we should know before we say goodbye today?
I just think that if everyone can find a couple of things, it would really make you feel like you're contributing, giving back. And when you do that, it just makes your holidays even better. And I think that's why I was so grateful for her to contact me and ask for our family as well as our friends' families to get involved. It's a satisfying feeling. And I know that I did this with the Girls on the Run a couple of years ago, and we actually did backpacks for the homeless, and we collected a bunch of items. We took them down. Socks are a huge thing because in the wintertime, their feet get really cold. They get wet. You can see my little cat's tail.
Oh. Yeah.
And you know, keeping your feet warm and dry is an essential part, and you know, and having your hands, you know, dry too. So if you have anything to donate, we would be really happy to be able to pass those on and, you know, help somebody else. You never know what somebody's struggle is, and those who don't want to ask for help sometimes need it the most. And if you also know somebody who could use a little pick-me-up, please let us know. I would love to put something together, drop it off on their doorstep. They don't have to know who it came from. I think that's definitely something else that we need to think about too. So we just have all these great ideas, and we just want to give back and make people feel really, really good. So go clean your closets out, see what you have. A phone call away is not going to hurt you. Text me your address. We will swing by, pick it up, and we will have somebody else have a most wonderful day.
And again, if you want to join in on this effort with Stacey and with others on her team here in the local area, 248-660-0464, and Stacey Zott at yahoo.com, STACIEZOT at yahoo.com. And again, that phone number, 248-660-0464. Stacey, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Everyone have an awesome and successful holiday, and fa la la, go clean your closets.
And a big thank you to Stacey Zakovich for joining us to help raise awareness for this donation campaign and this drive, as she and others in our community hope to keep people warm this holiday season as we head into the new year. Well, as we also are talking about the holiday season, while we get back together with our families, it's important for us to keep an eye out for each other, particularly our older adults and our senior populations. We recently spoke to Barb Giles from Jewish Senior Life about different signs that you can look out for in older adults and seniors in your family who maybe you haven't seen in a while, or are seeing for the first time in a few weeks or a few months, maybe even first time since the beginning of this pandemic, during your holiday family gatherings, and signs you can look out for that could be concerning, of distress or of other problems in their life, and how to then take the steps to address those problems as well. Take a look. Joining us now is Barb Giles. She is the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives at Jewish Senior Life to talk about how we can help our older adults and our seniors this holiday season as we visit with family and with friends over the Thanksgiving and the other holidays. Barb, thank you for being with us today. Appears you are muted. Just a moment.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Good to hear you. On Jewish Senior Life, they recently released a list of signs of need in parents and older adults. Some of the ways that we can, things we can look out for to see if our older adults and our seniors and our families and even our friends may be in need if we haven't seen them in a while, and maybe their circumstances have changed in a way that we're unaware of. What are some of those key signs that families should be looking out for in their older family members and their senior family members?
So evaluating your loved one during the holiday season this year is particularly important because some of us haven't necessarily been in person with our loved ones since the last holiday season. So I think there are 5 key tips that individuals who are seeing their loved ones for the first time, 5 things that they can do to evaluate any changes that might have happened with an older adult since the last time they were together. So my first suggestion is that if this is someone who you feel is safe to come in physical contact with, and that it's safe for both of you, that if you are able to greet each other with a hug, or if you're not having physical contact because of your COVID concerns, to look for changes in physical appearance. Weight loss is indicative of a whole many variety of things that could be happening behind the scenes for older adults. Weight loss can happen because of financial concerns, that people are not spending money on groceries. They could have social reasons that they're not going to get groceries, especially now. Maybe they're even having difficulty cooking. So when you see somebody and you can even feel them when you're able to hug them, that is certainly a sign. Also, when you're able to look for changes in appearance, decreased mobility is a huge indicator that perhaps something is going on and a visit to the doctor is warranted. Also, unkempt or mismatched or unclean clothes, another good sign. These are just signs that something has happened under changes in appearance. The second tip I can give is take time to sit and listen and notice possible changes in personality. Are they asking the same questions over and over again? Are they getting not able to follow basic directions that perhaps you've given them? Or are they getting confused at times to people, places, and things? This is another sign that something may have changed for your loved one. A third way you can evaluate your loved one is to ask about their friends. You can talk to them about their social life. Right now, it's sort of hard to gauge someone's social life because of ways we are changing things because of COVID. But if you notice there's a lack of interest in things that they were previously interested, another sign that maybe there's a change. The fourth tip, and really almost one of my favorite tips, is to act like a nosy neighbor and look for changes in the home. This is a huge indicator that something has changed for an older adult. Is there more clutter than there used to be? If you rifle through their mail, are they not paying attention to their bills? If you open the refrigerator, this is another sign, a great indicator of expired food, spilled food, things that look yucky, that you don't think that they're not paying close enough attention to things. Are there multiples of the same item? Every time they go to the grocery store, are they buying the same thing over and over again that they're not remembering that they might have already bought it? Another sign of in the nosy neighbor is that you can look for signs if there's been a small house fire that maybe you didn't know of. Are there burns on the knobs or pot bottoms of some of the pots and pans? Or the other telltale sign is burnt pot holders with burnt edges, another sign that perhaps something has happened. Now, we all have small fires. Believe me, if you check my house, some of my pot holders look like that too. But these are all signs that maybe are building up towards something altogether. Also, what do their pets and houseplants look like? Are they remembering to water their plants? Are they remembering that to take care of other things? These are all great signs. And my fifth tip for evaluating your loved one during the holiday season is to take a walk or go for a ride with the older adult. Do you notice any new nicks or dents in the car since you last rode with them? Maybe they're getting in accidents and you don't know. Are they remembering to fasten their seatbelt when they get in the car? When you turn on the car, are you notice that some of the warning lights have been on and you're getting a low pressure sign that perhaps has been there for a while? Are they tailgating? If you feel it's safe to ride, are they tailgating? Do they follow the speed limit? And are they having any trouble confusing brake and gas? If not, you can go for a walk with them also and check their balance. Are they steady walking? Do they shuffle when they walk? All of these are possible changes. So those are my 5 tips for evaluating your loved one in the holiday season.
We're joined by Barb Giles. She is the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives at Jewish Senior Life, joining us today on the Megacast. And so, Barb, if you are noticing those signs and you have some concerns, what are the next steps that should be taken after you've identified some of these concerns to either address them with your loved one or even take action if they're severe enough?
The first action to take is always to evaluate your loved one medically. Take them to the doctor. You don't know when the last time perhaps they might have gone to the doctor is, or even something as simple like a urinary tract infection for an older adult can cause great confusion that is very temporary. And after a couple of doses of antibiotics, someone's back on their feet again and not showing that same confusion. So the first thing to do is to always have your loved one evaluated by a medical practitioner. Once that's happened, perhaps that person can give you more guidance if it is time to consider changes or if other options or supports are needed in the home. These are always great ways as your physician to really help be your guide as to what's going on and what other steps might need to be taken.
We're joined by Barb Giles. She's the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives with Jewish Senior Life, joining us today on the Megacast. And so, as we are in the holiday season, and we are going to have gatherings of families during the Thanksgiving holiday, over Thanksgiving weekend, and certainly in the holidays in December as well. Having those evaluations is one thing. It's important, but also it's important to create an environment that is welcoming and that is safe all across the board for our seniors and for our older adults as well. Having those big family gatherings, they can be noisy, they can be compact, and that can be stressful for a lot of people, especially our older adults and seniors. What advice do you have for families to help to mitigate that situation this holiday season?
If you're noticing your loved one is becoming overwhelmed with the amount of people, especially after the isolation we've all had, social isolation because of COVID, really simple strategies like taking the older adult to a room with fewer people. There's always one room, maybe the den or the living room, where fewer people are gathered and maybe the television isn't on, where you're limiting some of that outside noise and where you're able to make some changes for the person, because being overwhelmed is very anxiety provoking. So the easiest tip would be to take the person into an area of a lot less people congestion, where I still should remind everyone, we all want to be very careful with the climbing COVID numbers. So even please use great caution while you're with your loved ones over the holidays. And I believe our Oakland County is even advising masks being worn inside for family gatherings. So you might want to make some other changes depending on how large your group is that can help the person.
We're joined by Barb Giles from Jewish Senior Life. She is their Director of Strategic Initiatives with us today on the Megacast. And in terms of COVID-19 precautions that should be taken, what are the immediate factors that should be put into consideration before either inviting older adults and seniors in your family to these family gatherings or inviting others to these gatherings that may include these individuals?
So Michigan Department of Health and Human Services' #1 suggestion is vaccination. Vaccination is critical in helping us to control the COVID-19. After that, certainly good practices include frequent hand washing, disinfection and cleaning of high-touch surface areas. Masking, even while you're indoors, is currently recommended. All of the good COVID-19 practices, covering your mouth and nose if you're sneezing, all of those good practices that we've been following, good hand washing, I would stress the importance of making sure we're doing all of those things while we're visiting with our loved ones.
We're joined by Barb Giles, joining us today on the Megacast. She is the Director of Strategic Initiatives with Jewish Senior Life. And during the season also, we got to think about our caregivers as well, because they've been with our older adults, with our seniors throughout this entire pandemic. It's been a challenging year and a challenging process for them through all of this as well. What further considerations should we be taking at the familial level for our caregivers also during this time?
Right. So caregiver burnout is a huge factor to consider. Almost 72% of family caregivers report not going to the doctor as often as they should for themselves. And 55% say they completely skip their own doctor's appointments. So taking care of yourself is critical in order to take care of your loved ones. It is really critical. Caregiver burnout is a real thing. And for those of you who have been taking care of somebody you love, especially during this pandemic, it's really critical that you are taking care of yourself. Some signs that you should be looking for that you're suffering from caregiver burnout is, do you have a lack of energy? Are you sensing an overwhelming sense of fatigue? Are you having sleep problems? Are you feeling like caregiving is controlling your life? Are you struggling with anxiety, depression, inability to concentrate? If you are not able to be the foundation to take care of the person that you're taking care of, your whole situation will crumble. You have to have the strong foundation. So at Jewish Senior Life, some of the things that we recommend is, it is critical for caregivers to ask for help. You are not a failure if you need help. So let other people know that you need their help and support, and give yourself permission to take breaks. And if it's not safe for you to take a break, maybe there are other things you can consider, like an adult day program. Like we have at Jewish Senior Life at our Brown Adult Day program, that if you need a few hours of respite, excuse me, there are programs to help you so that you can get the care and do some of the things that you need. How about just waking up 15 minutes earlier to spend some time for yourself, where maybe you can journal, where maybe you can meditate, and you can have some time. Maybe it would be helpful for you as a caregiver to make a list of what you need to accomplish during the day so that you can make sure your needs are being met. I'm just going to grab a drink of water so that I don't choke to death.
Okay, yeah, I will then reset. We're joined by Barb Giles. She is the Director of Strategic Initiatives with Jewish Senior Life, joining us today on the Megacast, talking about what we can look out for in our seniors and our older adults and our caregivers this holiday season. And so, Barbara, as we do our evaluations of our family members, of our caregivers, particularly of our older adults and seniors, one of the toughest things that a family can do is reach the point where they realize they need to make some changes in the lives of their loved one, and they need to make those changes themselves without it being necessarily being the direct decision of that loved one. What advice do you have for the families that may be going through that pretty common struggle this holiday season after they've done their evaluations?
So one, there are professionals to help you. If you're making the decision that the current situation needs to change somehow, not necessarily for the person to move, but to change somehow, there are wonderful professionals in our community. Here at Jewish Senior Life, we have our own frontline resource by calling 248-661-1836. And our person who answers our telephone, Tracy Chirikas, can help guide you. And there are navigators like that all over. And at places like Jewish Senior Life, we welcome people of all beliefs, faiths, nationalities to call us, because we will help guide you. And there are other wonderful resources in our community of case managers and other practitioners who make it part of their business to help people find more support when a time has come to make a change. Maybe the change is simple. Maybe the person just needs home care services coming into their home. Maybe the person just needs 4 hours of somebody coming in and helping with some light tasks. Maybe the person needs physical therapy services coming into the home. Maybe you're deciding it's time to leave the home, and there are choices like independent living communities that offer supports. There are assisted living communities that offer tremendous supports. So there are resources, and people often make dramatic thoughts that they have to make some kind of radical change, when sometimes just by building in enough supports, you can make the change, or by moving someone to an independent living community that offers enrichments, you can build enough support up to help that person move forward with just a small change in their environment. So it's always not the most dramatic thing, but there are professionals to help everyone.
We're joined by Barb Giles. She's the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives with Jewish Senior Life, joining us today on the Megacast. Barb, just another few minutes with you today before we'll say goodbye. Any lasting advice or other considerations that should be made by families or individuals this holiday season regarding their older adults, seniors in their life, or caregivers?
One, please know everyone needs help, and there are wonderful places that are here to help all of you. This time of year is tremendously difficult, and I think this year maybe even more so than most, that the challenges and things that we will encounter after not being together for so long will really start to that you'll start to see maybe different pictures. So don't get overwhelmed. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself as the caregiver. Make sure that you're evaluating the people who need evaluating, and call for help, because we're here to help you.
Well, Barb, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us and giving these families some needed advice and guidance on how they can help their loved ones as we head into this holiday weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank Barb and everyone over at Jewish Senior Life for all of their great advice to those out in the community, so that we can look out for our family members, our friends, people around us as well, and those older adult and senior populations that are easily neglected in our communities. And if we're not looking out for them, they may not be able to recognize those signs themselves and get the help that they need. So very important information, and we thank Barb and everyone over at Jewish Senior Life for providing that advice and that guidance continually as we go through the holiday season and beyond. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we have more of our favorite interviews from recent episodes of the Megacast on this, the best of the Megacast. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
This message brought to you by FEMA. Home fires occur most often in winter. Keep anything that can catch fire at least 3 feet from heating equipment. And never use an oven to heat your home. Stay in the kitchen when frying, grilling, or broiling food. Turn space heaters off when you leave the room or go to bed. Make sure all vents are clear of snow and ice to allow carbon monoxide to vent outside. Have your furnace, heating system, and chimneys serviced each year by a qualified professional. Learn more at www.usfa.fema.gov.
Better reproductive health is in our hands. When I needed an STI test,
help getting on the pill,
my annual wellness visit,
advice on how to be safe, help was at my fingertips. Family planning clinics offer confidential, low-cost services to young adults like us. Get started at michigan.gov/family planning.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Welcome back to the Best of the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe here in our studios in West Bloomfield Township, although we're broadcasting all throughout the state of Michigan on a number of different television, radio, and web outlets, including your radio home for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keagle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, live streaming online on lakesfm.com. You can learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast Monday through Friday, live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon for our regular shows by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast or by clicking on the Megacast link there at civiccentertv.com. Well, as people are looking to get more involved in charitable organizations and in helping out in the community, inspired by the holiday season, we are pleased to once again highlight one of our favorite recent interviews about an organization called Arise Detroit that's helping to connect a lot of these organizations for charitable efforts and for community service efforts in Detroit and in the surrounding areas as well. We were recently joined by Arise Detroit's Luther Keith to talk all about their efforts and the ways that they're making an impact in Detroit. Joining us now, he's a former reporter and editor at the Detroit News and is currently the executive director of Arise Detroit. Luther Keith is now joining us on the Megacast. Luther, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Yeah, appreciate having you on. So you are the executive director of Arise Detroit. Tell us a little bit about your organization and the work that it does to support our communities.
Well, thanks again. Well, Arise Detroit is, we call ourselves a coalition of more than 400 churches, block clubs, and community groups promoting volunteerism, community activism, and positive media images to create a better Detroit. Our basic goal in mission and call to action is to get people to step up and engage to improve their neighborhoods in Detroit, right where you live. We are not a direct service organization, but we provide some resources where we can. But our goal is to motivate people to kind of light the flame of community engagement, community involvement, and volunteerism, so people can improve their neighborhoods and understand that we all have a role to play. We just can't call talk shows and complain at the barbershop or the beauty salon. We are living in the blocks. We are living in neighborhoods. So let's look around and see what we can do ourselves personally to engage and to make our communities and neighborhoods the kind of neighborhoods we all want to live in.
You can find more information about Arise Detroit and donate to the organization by visiting their website at arisedetroit.org. We're joined by Executive Director Luther Keith on the Megacast. And so what inspired you to start this organization?
Well, as you know, I was a professional journalist at the Detroit News for more than 30 years, doing a lot of different things. I was a sports writer, political reporter, a business editor, an assistant managing editor, a senior editor, columnist. So I had a very long and fruitful career. And when I was a columnist, I would write columns about how we can improve the neighborhoods of Detroit. I would write about crime or education, literacy, business, what have you. And oftentimes people would say, well, Luther, that's a good idea. Who's going to do it? Luther, that's a good idea. Who's going to do it? And then sometime I would get calls and emails from white readers who would say, why aren't black people doing anything about their problems in Detroit? And then I would get calls and emails from black folks saying, we are trying to form a block club or youth program. Can we get some publicity to get people to engage in what we're trying to do? And so after a while, it occurred to me that what we needed in Detroit was not necessarily a group to, more groups to feed, clothe, and shelter. We needed a group to advocate on behalf of all the groups that are already doing that, to encourage people to support the groups that are out here. What I have come to coin called the transformation community. By that, I mean any church, block club, community group, or person that's trying to doing something positive to improve the neighborhoods or the community is this huge transformation community, which ends up being hundreds of organizations and thousands of people all across the city. So my thought was to create an organization that would encourage folks to get involved, to volunteer, and not just volunteer, but to understand that we all have a role to play. And the idea of Arise Detroit is simply to reach out to people and to get the community group that has 10 volunteers, maybe get them 20. The cleanup program that has 50, maybe get them 100. And at the same time, I encourage people to be involved. I thought it needed a strong media component, for this call of action. If you recognize that every movement has had a communication platform. If you go back to drums and smoke signals, radio, TV, and of course today the internet. So my thought was to not just tell people, to urge people to get involved, but to use the platform of media. And fortunately, we have some great media partners in radio, TV, and newspapers. And so we try to use the media to put the spotlight on these great, inspiring efforts going on all around our city to get more people involved. And people say, like, why aren't we doing that? Why can't we do that? And so as a result of that, we've been able to grow our movement. We started with 22 founding organizations. Now we have more than 400 that have been involved in our activities all across the city of Detroit. Of course, our big annual event is our annual Neighborhoods Day event, which we just celebrated the 15th year. We promoted and marketed more than 1,700 community projects of all kinds all across the city. In every neighborhood, we bring together people of all kinds, all faiths, all incomes, all races, around a common interest of creating a better community. And fortunately, the community has responded. I like to say that Arise Detroit is not an idea whose time has come. It's an idea that community wants to come to. And actually, Arise is actually an acronym. It stands for Activating Resources and Inspiring Empowerment. So our goal is our motto is be part of the change. So if you give people a reason, if you reach out to them, they will respond. And that's what we're seeing with Arise Detroit.
We're joined by Luther Keith. He is the executive director of Arise Detroit. You can learn more information about the organization and ways that you can get involved and help them out by visiting their website at arisedetroit.org. Again, that is arisedetroit.org. And so you mentioned the 15th annual Neighborhoods Day. It happened back in August. It was the 15th iteration of that event. On Neighborhoods Day, you mentioned it's a number of projects that are happening all throughout the city with your partnering organizations and with volunteers as well. How has that grown over the last 15 years, and how do you expect that to continue to grow in the future as we eventually do get out from behind the COVID-19 crisis?
Well, it's been tremendous. Most times in the city of Detroit, in a lot of places, when you have community events, everybody goes to one place. We all go downtown. We all go to Belle Isle. We go to fireworks downtown. We decided that after we first launched Arise Detroit that we wanted to do something in the neighborhoods. Our first big event was actually in 2006 when we started. We had a huge volunteer fair in downtown Detroit at Campus Martius Park. We had about 50 nonprofits, and we invited people to come down and sign up and volunteer. That went well, but the next year we said, why don't we do something in the neighborhoods? And one of our board members, Jane Thomas, who has since passed, had an idea that we first thought was crazy. He said, why can't we do something in all the neighborhoods of Detroit? And we said, we can't do that. We're a little organization, but we thought about it. And think about what happens in churches on Sunday all over Detroit. In most communities, people of all faiths go to their respective houses of worship and worship in their own way all over the city. So let's take that motto and apply it to this new event that we're going to call Neighborhoods Day, which is held on the first Saturday of every August. And on this day, we ask Black people in churches and Black communities not to go one place downtown, but to do something in their own neighborhood to show how they're making a difference in their neighborhood. So we had in that first year, we had 55 events, which was a lot, but we had people painting houses, cleaning up neighborhoods, having youth programs, parades, concerts, all kinds of events, events to help seniors, events for children. And from that first year of 55 events all over the city in different zip codes again, it quickly grew to 100, then 150 to over 200. For our 10th anniversary, we had, if you can imagine this, over 300 events all over the city of Detroit on the same day. And on a normal year, we have at least 200. Because of COVID, of course, which hit 2 years ago, everything changed because a lot of these events, we have huge crowds that gather, some large, some small. So we couldn't do it that way. So in 2020, we came up with a slogan called Stay Safe, Create Your Space. And we had people do small events on their houses, on their front lawns, in their neighborhoods. We kept all the events small with 10 people or less. And with that, encourage people to social distance and mask up. That even in the depths of the pandemic, we had over 100 groups participate. This year, of course, we had the vaccine and things have loosened up a little bit, but we still, of course, have the pandemic and those safety concerns. But this year, because of the vaccine and other reasons, we grew to more than 150 events. Again, still in the pandemic, which tells us that people want to show their community pride. We didn't want to be one of the organizations that we have a big event and because of the pandemic, it goes away and then people forget about that event. So we've been able to maintain this. We had a great event of all over the city again. We had youth golf tournaments and all kind of manner of people cleaning up neighborhoods, festivals and concerts, food giveaways, school supply giveaways. And so we know that this is something that people want to respond to. But again, neighborhoods is just one day. We are one of the things, again, that we do throughout the year. We're partnering with organizations promoting their events. We have a newsletter that if you go to our website, arisedetroit.org, you can sign up for, which comes out every week to several thousand subscribers. And it's full of information on community programs, volunteering, job opportunities, a lot of safety information, where you can get vaccinated, where you can get tested. And so that's been a great tool to advocate on behalf of other organizations, because I see Arise Detroit as an advocate for all the nonprofit groups out here. So everything is not about us. It's about how we can serve all these organizations. And what we have found is that most of these organizations who are doing this work, they get up every day and they're looking for people to help them, where they can find a partner. And so Arise Detroit is a partner to all of these groups. And there was a saying that the great boxer Joe Louis out of Detroit said during World War II when he was doing work for the war effort. And he said an expression that we, instead of saying that God is on his side, we are on God's side. And I think that is how people feel about Arise Detroit. Arise Detroit is on their side. You don't have to be the most prosperous. You don't have to be a big foundation taken over by a foundation. We just want to know how we can help you and create the community that you want to have. So that's what people have responded to. And we've been able to help make. We're a very small organization, but our through technology of today, our reach is much farther than we could be in way back before the days of the internet and technology. So we've been able to really maintain that connection with people, and the people show us how much they appreciate it. And that's the fact that the number of people who respond to this, if people weren't responding, we wouldn't be here. What has made us is the fact that people understand that what we do makes a difference. And even though we don't come in and we fix a whole roof, but we'll find somebody maybe that can come fix your roof. We can't clean up your neighborhood by ourselves. We'll find people to come to it. So it starts with the individual. And as a result of neighborhood difference, a lot of people say we don't have a block club, but now we're going to form one. And one of our board members, Tony McElwain, who for years ran the Ravendale Community Detroit, she has a saying which I have borrowed or stolen, but I think it's very important. And it goes like this: most people are waiting to be led. Most people are waiting to be led. They'll get involved, but they don't think they're a leader. And as my dear departed mother once said, Jesus is coming, but he's probably not coming tonight. He's probably not coming tonight. And if he's not coming, what are you going to do to make a difference? So the idea again is about look into the mirror, get involved, get engaged. And I can tell you that, I'm just totally inspired by all the people that I've seen and have encountered doing this work. It's such a great feeling. And people often ask me for years, Luther, don't you miss being a journalist? Because I had a great career. I was on TV and had my own column. And actually, I'm doing a lot of that now anyway. But when you're a columnist, you can't make everybody happy no matter what you write, no matter what opinion you write. I could write a column say we should all love each other, and people say, oh, Luther, that's crazy. You can't do that. Now when people ask me what I do, I say I run a nonprofit to help children and families improve life in Detroit. Nobody says like, I'm against that. I want to fight you about that. They say, oh, really? How can I get involved? How can I help? So every day we're meeting in a place of common ground. We are debating people. We aren't trying to persuade people to vote this way or vote that way. We have, what we're about is we want a better community. You want a better community. How can we together make our community better? Let me help you. Maybe you can help me. And so we live in a place with the Rise Detroit. Our work brings people together on common ground. We don't live in a world of conflict. We don't live in a world of debate. And there's a place for all of that. We understand that. But at the end of the day, we all have much more in common than divides us. And if we can focus on that, we can get tremendous things done in our community. In the last 15, 16 years, what the Rise Rate demonstrates that.
We're joined by Luther Keith. He is the executive director of Arise Detroit. Learn more information on how you can get involved as well by going to their website at arisedetroit.org. And recently, being that we are still in the middle of the pandemic, that's of course affecting service in some situations and definitely affecting our relationships with our community and the ways that we interact with other people. Because of the current situation with COVID-19 in the state of Michigan, certainly in the city of Detroit as well, you and your organization have been making a greater push of late to encourage people to get vaccinated against COVID-19. What was the inspiration or the impetus behind that current push to get Detroiters vaccinated?
Well, simply because we're looking around and people are dying. People are dying. People that we know, people that we love, all over our community. And we looked around this year and we actually issued a formal statement encouraging Detroiters to get vaccinated because we felt that it was such an urgent need. Detroit's numbers in terms of vaccination are some of the lowest of any major city, below 50% here in the city of Detroit. Over 2,400 people have died since the onset of the pandemic. So we did have earlier this month our annual we call it our neighborhood summit, which generally focuses on getting people to talk about how they can improve their communities. We had it virtually this year. Normally you have over 400 people downtown at the Wayne County Community College downtown campus, a whole day of workshops. So this year we did it virtually and focused on health. So we had doctors on talking about vaccination. We had the City of Detroit's Chief Public Health Officer, Denise Fiorazzo, on. We had Deputy Director Conrad Mallett, who are spearheading the campaign to get Detroiters vaccinated. We had Detroiters talking about why they got vaccinated. We had people talking about the impact of COVID on education and students and parents. So we just think that this is an urgent time, a time of crisis, a time that we've never seen before in our lifetimes. And we could not just do a traditional type of event. And this is urgent. We all want to get back to that place we call normal. I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we saw, but we can definitely make it better. And that's why we felt that we had to step up and do what we can do to encourage people to get vaccinated, respecting people's political beliefs and that their religious beliefs. But beyond that, we just felt that it's the number one thing we can do to make our community better and to save our loved ones, And that was our main impetus.
We're joined by Luther Keith, the executive director of Arise Detroit. And of course, we're in the holiday season. People are looking to help organizations throughout our communities that are helping other people as well. And so at this time, what sort of volunteer opportunities are available with Arise Detroit? And then beyond that, what are some other ways that people can help your organization do the great work that it does in Detroit?
Well, the thing to understand about Arise Detroit and volunteerism is that we do not do the volunteerism. Our organizations in our network do the volunteering. So again, we don't manage the volunteers. We connect people to the groups that do volunteer, like Detroit Blight Busters for one, or Block Clubs. So that's the way our Neighbors Day event works. People will contact us and then we connect them. Like I said, we have several hundred organizations. So if someone contacts us or emails us at info@arisedetroit.org, we could connect them to volunteer opportunities of all kinds, food pantries, kitchens, that type of thing, working in neighborhood groups, literacy programs. We have organizations that are, literally every quality of life issue in the city of Detroit, we have a connection with one of those groups. And we're kind of like a traffic cop, if you will, routing volunteers. So that's one way. Of course, We're a small nonprofit funded by foundations and some corporate support, but of course we welcome any donations by going to our website. You can donate to us. That's another great way to support us. And sign up for our newsletter. You can, by going to our website, signing up. That will plug you into all the great things that people are doing, all kinds of opportunities, volunteer opportunities, jobs, organizations that you think are doing something that you want to support. Because again, it's not just about supporting Rise Detroit. Rise Detroit's goal is to support all the other groups out here. We're like a free public relations advertising agency for all the nonprofit community, if you will. And that's what makes us unique. But one thing that I'd like to emphasize, that volunteerism is important, but what we're doing really is bigger than volunteerism. And I'll use this anecdote. C.T. Vivian, a contemporary of Dr. Martin Luther King, spoke in Detroit years ago and talked about the fact that during the Montgomery bus boycott, they had a saying that said, "What are you doing for the movement?" That meant you had to answer. I'm cooking food. I'm driving people to work. I'm letting people stay at my house. But you had to be doing something for the movement. And so that's what we're trying to do here in Detroit, is to create that kind of mentality. What are you doing for the movement, your community, for Detroit? You don't have to run a big organization. You don't have to have a big business. You can just sit home and watch the kids come home from school safely. And maybe you can teach someone to read at a literacy program. Large or small, there's something we all can do. And we all probably have something that somebody else wants. So those are all the kinds of ways to be involved, because our work is to support all the other people who are doing great work out here. And of course, we welcome any way that people want to connect and be involved. They can do that. They can call our office at 313-921-1955 or email us at info@arisedetroit.org. Like I said, our website, arisedetroit.org, is full of information, all kinds of videos about our work. Neighborhood Today, we're all over YouTube. If you Google Rise Detroit Neighborhood Today, you'll find all kinds of information about it. And again, it's something very positive. And I want to thank you and folks in Oakland County for reaching out to us, because quite frankly, this is totally unexpected, but I'm very pleased. And I think it's, again, an indication, if you put out positive vibes, positive work, you attract the positive. And that's what's so wonderful about Arise Detroit. We focus on the work and then be blessed in many ways. It comes back many times over. And in this holiday season, I think that's a great message.
It absolutely is. And Luther, we appreciate your time telling us more about Arise Detroit and what you and all of your partnered organizations in the city are doing to help other people and to help our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Stay safe and have a happy holiday.
Big thank you to Luther Keefe for giving us all of that great information about Arise Detroit and all the many different ways that you and your organization can get involved. Partner with other organizations, partner with other people in your community and in neighboring communities such as Detroit to do great work, giving back to the community. Well, unfortunately, here in Oakland County, our community has been through a lot lately, a lot of tragic events, especially the shooting at Oxford High School on Tuesday, November 30th. And in the wake of such harrowing events, it can be tough for people to process those events and to cope with those events. And so we recently spoke with psychologist Dr. Melanie Schwartz from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness about different strategies that people can take to begin their grieving process, but also ways that they can help other people through their grieving process as well, and why it's so important that in times of distress and in times of tragedy to begin your coping process at your own pace and to seek help from an expert should you need it. Let's take a look. Joining us now from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness is a licensed clinical psychologist and the co-owner of Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness, Dr. Melanie Schwartz. Dr. Schwartz, thank you for being with us this morning.
Of course, I'm glad I can be here.
So let's start. Let's just. There's really not a good spot to start with this, but being in close proximity to something as horrible as what happened yesterday at Oxford High School certainly will leave those that were close to the incident, those that were on site yesterday, those affected by the incident through connections to people involved. It's going to leave a trauma with them. It's going to be something that's it's a lot to process, certainly, I would presume. where do we start? What are some good points to start at, knowing that everybody's going to cope with this differently, and there isn't a standard process necessarily for going through any trauma?
I think support right now is the first step. Reaching out, if you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, even if we're learning as today goes on that, we're familiar with people who have been affected. Reach out to them, let them know you're there to talk, to support them in any way that you can, that you are there for them. Support is step number one right now, is that will help people get through this. Without that support, people are going to struggle more than they already will.
For parents, for colleagues, for spouses of those that were on site yesterday at Oxford High School, or witness firsthand or from a distance even on site an incident like what happened yesterday or something similar to that in another area at another time, for them as they're trying to help their loved one go through it, and they're going through it themselves also in their own processes, particularly let's start with the parents of the students. Where should they start in supporting their kids while they also process the horror of yesterday and those events themselves?
Well, I think that number one, they're going to need their own supports, whether that's their friends, family, different groups, resources throughout the community, their own therapy. They're going to need that. Ways that they can help their kids right now would be to have these open conversations with them, to monitor their emotional state, to reaffirm that they are safe, okay? Because the majority of them are, even if they didn't witness that, they are now safe. And to continue to maintain a normal routine with the kids as much as possible. I'm sure Oxford will not be in school for a while, but to make sure that the kids are getting the support that they need in terms of mental health, because they are going to need it. It will be extremely important, and the sooner the better.
Some may respond differently than others. Some will have a very visceral response to their experiences yesterday, whether directly or through multiple steps from just having somebody that they know there, someone they care about that was there. Everyone's going to respond differently, and for some kids, that response is to kind of close off or to say, I'm fine, it's not really a big deal, and maybe they don't even know it themselves quite yet, just how that's affected them. That can be more of a touch and go situation in terms of how you approach helping that person, helping that child, helping that individual, but also it's critical still to help them cope with that as well, so that trauma doesn't fester.
Right.
How do we go about that? Because that is a much touchier process. It's not quite as explicit. And in some cases, it could be easy for people in those kids' lives, in those adults' lives, to look from the outside in, looking in, and see that as they're not affected by this at all.
Right. Well, that type of reaction is very normal. Okay. It's not abnormal. It's very normal. Everyone's going to react however they're going to react right now. And if it is to say that you're okay, I mean, I've watched some videos over the last couple of days of kids, talking about what has occurred with no emotion whatsoever. Okay. That's very normal to not have that emotional reaction. However, if you are in a situation that is traumatic, such as what happened yesterday, your brain does not know how to process that information. Okay. Therefore, it's gonna hit however it hits at whatever time and whenever. It may be a trigger 3 months from now where the child reacts and has a strong reaction to it. It may be now, it may be tomorrow, it may be a year from now. And to just be aware of that and be proactive about it. That's what's important. Even if they're saying they are okay, they're not okay. Okay. They may feel like they're okay, but they are not okay. And to be proactive and get them the help that they need, whether that's the resources at school. I know that the school is going to provide whatever supports that they need to, whether it's getting them a therapist now, and even if they just need to talk about daily things right now until the traumatic events come out for them. Or, just making sure you're talking to them every single day for the foreseeable future. And even if they say, I'm fine. Okay, you're fine, but let's talk about it for now. Okay. We're still going to talk about it, even if you say you're okay. If you don't want to talk about it, you have to know I'm here and I will listen at any point. And that's how you approach the kids who think that they're okay right now.
We're joined by Dr. Melanie Schwartz. She is a licensed clinical psychologist and the owner of Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness, joining us on the Megacast. And as she mentioned, Oxford Community Schools, they are closed. I can confirm that from Local 4's update this morning that Oxford Community Schools are closed for the remainder of this week at the very least. We will be following that closely with any updates that may come from the Oxford Community Schools regarding next week or going forward with their school. And the district's crisis team is working to implement a response plan at this time to support those in the community. More details will be on the response will be sent as they become available, and the Common Ground is among the organizations with a 24/7 resource and crisis helpline at this time to help those affected by yesterday's horrible events at Oxford High School. And that call or text line for that resource, 1-800-231-1127. Again, that's 1-800-231-1127. And we have that article that includes that number listed on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, so you can find more information on that. And so, Dr. Schwartz, for those that will be able to have access to those resources that will at some point very soon be in place in the Oxford Community School District from their crisis response team, there's going to be, I'm sure there will be many different levels of how that support, of what that support will be, including some trauma counseling that will presumably be available to students, to faculty, to staff. But for many, that might be their first time in a situation where they're talking to a professional about a psychological matter, about their mental health, about a trauma that they've been through, and many of them may not know where to start with that, what questions they should be asking, where they should begin their approach when they walk into that office, when they walk into that conversation with a professional that's there to help them, and they ask, what do you want to talk about, or or how are you feeling? What's your advice for those kids, for those adults that will be seeking that guidance for what they can consider or what they should consider as points that they can start that conversation to best help the professional help them?
Well, the good news is that the professional is the expert. So even if the kids or the adults walk in and they do not know what to talk about or what to say, let the therapist, the professional, take the lead. They will do that. They know what to focus on. I know stepping into a professional therapist, psychiatrist, whoever's counselor's office can be intimidating. It can be scary. It's anxiety provoking. I see it happen all the time, regardless of the issue. But let the professional take the lead. That's okay. You don't need to know what you have to ask or what you need to talk about. Your brain is probably going a million miles a minute to some degree, and it doesn't know what to focus on and what to do. And there's a lot of fear in a lot of different areas right now. And you don't need to know what to say or what to do. The best thing you can do is to reach out to somebody, is to talk to somebody, is to, whether it's family, friends, therapist, counselor, school, community, whoever it is, these are the people that you need to reach out to right now, because you don't need to know what to say. You just need to do it, because that's being proactive and will prevent further distress.
We're joined by Dr. Melanie Schwartz, a licensed clinical psychologist and owner of Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness, joining us on the Megacast. More information on their organization at viewpointpw.com. Again, that's viewpointpw.com. And before I ask this, I just want to preface it with this is not meant to be any sort of a matter of trying to force the issue or to say that you have to seek that support if you have experienced what happened yesterday at Oxford High School, or you are adjacent to those events yesterday at Oxford High School. But for those that may, at this moment in time, and that could change, or continuing down the line may say, well, I don't really need to seek any help. I don't really think that this is affecting me too badly, but there may be some clear signs there. For those that may decide to let things settle and let things fester in them long term, just give us an overview of how that could affect someone down the line if they are traumatized by this, even if they're maybe in a state of initial denial of it, or are just deciding they want to put it aside and let it process for now. Holding on that and not seeking help that you may need, what sort of effects could that have down the line, so that people know some of the rationale behind why it is so important for them to seek help should they need it?
Well, what likely will happen is post-traumatic stress will develop. Not saying it won't develop even if you do seek treatment, because that's a natural response to trauma. However, the symptoms will increase and become overwhelming and take over if you don't get the help that you need. Things to look for would be nightmares, startle responses. I mean, a lot of triggers for people who've experienced trauma is if they hear a loud noise. I mean, people were hearing gunshots yesterday. If they hear a loud noise, that's gonna trigger a startle response. It's gonna trigger flashbacks to what happened yesterday. People may have difficulty sleeping, difficulty eating. Depression may occur. Increased anxiety about specific things, about anything. These are the signs to look for right now. And whether they're happening now or they're going to happen down the line, but these are signs that you should seek out help in some way. Okay. Again, how you get it does not matter. It's just that you get the support that you need.
We're joined by Dr. Melanie Schwartz. She's a licensed psychologist and the owner of Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness, joining us today on the Megacast. Dr. Schwartz, thank you very much for being with us. Just another couple of minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else that you would like, any other advice that you would like to give to those affected by the tragedy yesterday at Oxford High School, those out in the community, as well as we begin the coping process or continue the coping process that began yesterday in the wake of this event?
This is obviously a very devastating situation. It's very close to us in our community. And I think it's about, again, the support, managing your fear around this happening again. I think, what you said earlier before we were talking, have a dialogue, open up communication, just about how to prevent this, going forward. Obviously there's a major mental health crisis going on right now due to COVID, and this is just another factor of that. Obviously these things happened before COVID, but people's mental health, it's at an all-time high right now where they're struggling. And this is more evidence of the struggle that people are experiencing. So get help. Call the crisis lines, find a therapist, talk to the counselors, talk to your teachers, talk to whoever you need to talk to. One last thing that we didn't mention yet is that, additionally, I'm only saying this only because I do have a close connection with the West Bloomfield Police Department, that, the Oakland County Sheriffs are going to be struggling right now too with what they witnessed yesterday, and that they're going to need support and help as well. And I know that they have an amazing police psychologist on staff. Hopefully they will seek out the help that they need as well, and they'll do what they need to do. But it affected so many people on so many levels, whether you were part of it or you were distanced from it and you were just watching it. But watching TV, reading, seeing what's going on social media today, there's an outpouring of support and people who want to help and people who want to do things to prevent this from ever happening again. And I think we need to really have those conversations and figure out how we can support the community, volunteer, do whatever we need to do to move forward past this.
Well, Dr. Schwartz, thank you very much for joining us, giving us your insight as a professional in mental health services, as a licensed clinical psychologist, as we collectively as a community and, of course, individuals affected directly or indirectly even by the tragedy yesterday at Oxford High School, cope with yesterday's horrific events and what that means for our community going forward. We appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you.
We thank Dr. Schwartz for joining us and her entire team, as well as all of those out in the mental health community, for all of the help they're providing to us here in Oakland County, and certainly those in Oxford after the harrowing events of November 30th at Oxford High School. And of course, our thoughts remain with our friends over there in Oxford after a tragic event there on Tuesday, November 30th. Lastly, on this best of edition of the Megacast, we spoke recently about not only what will surely come politically as a result of the Oxford school shooting, but also on a number of different issues affecting both our politics here in the state of Michigan, including the upcoming election year in 2022, as well as federal politics with our favorite political science expert, Dave Dulio, political science professor at Oakland University. And we also talked to him about ways that we can open civil conversations about complex issues and try to come up with creative solutions to these problems without getting into a political shouting match. And he's an expert on that, as well as he's also Oakland University's director of their Center for Civic Engagement. We talked to him about all of that and more on a recent edition of the Megacast. Let's take a look. Joining us now is Dave Dulio. He is a professor of political science and the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Dave, thank you for being with us again.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Tyler. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So, we should just immediately go into the unfortunate incident that happened on Tuesday, November 30th at Oxford High School, where 4 kids and 7 additional people, 4 kids killed and 7 additional people injured in a school shooting right here in Oakland County at Oxford High School. And so once again, here we are sprung into the debate in the aftermath, as we see so often with these school shootings around the U.S. Whenever this happens, the immediate discussion turns into a debate over what can we do to stop this, how can we prevent another one from happening, and it becomes a two-pronged debate, at least initially. On one end, it's a mental health debate. It's considered a mental health problem. On the other end, it's considered a gun safety and a gun control problem, and that often leads to political vitriol, and really, as I called it yesterday, a shouting match begins. Problem solving doesn't begin. It's a shouting process. For you, as the director of civic engagement at Oakland, of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, as you have discussions on these kinds of hot button issues and important issues, and important topics that all often are very complicated problems that require creative and sensitive problem-solving efforts, where should we be beginning these conversations on whether it be the gun issue, the mental health issue, the overall issues that go into the occurrence of these school shootings? That, I know, being a broad question, but at the very least to begin a productive conversation, as opposed to a shouting match that ultimately leads nowhere and ends up snuffing out the conversation altogether.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Tyler. In my view, one of the reasons that we maybe seem to make very little progress on maybe this or any host of issues, frankly, is that too quickly it does devolve into a shouting match. And I think that happens, at least to some degree, because the different sides, people that disagree, don't come to the conversation with any respect for the other, right? And they're seen immediately as political opponents. They're seen immediately as somebody's trying to infringe on this, or somebody's not doing enough on that. And in my view, when you start from that kind of rancorous, contentious position, you can't get anywhere.
We're joined by Dave Dulio, the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University and professor of political science, joining us on the Megacast. And I said it yesterday, it's an issue, the school shooting issue and the school shooting debate, it's an issue that it doesn't really hit home until it hits home. And with this being so local to us in Oakland County in particular, but even on a broader scale across the state of Michigan, with this affecting people of all ages and in all sectors of our state, the debate begins immediately, and often that debate on the political spectrum is obstructed particularly on the gun issue because of affiliations with different organizations, particularly with the NRA for more so for the Republicans than the Democrats. Does the power of the NRA and gun owners make it impossible, or at least, or better yet, why does that affiliation seem to make it so tough to even begin any sort of substantial debate on the political side, on the policy-making side, related to gun laws federally and even statewide?
Well, I'm not so sure it's the power of the NRA as it is the elected officials that are in office, right? The NRA isn't making any decisions. The NRA isn't stopping any proposed law from making headway, right? It's elected officials that are doing that, and I think that it's no secret, right? We have a Republican majority in both chambers of the legislature, and the Republicans tend to not be terribly supportive of increased gun control measures, and that's for a number of reasons, right? And you'd have to talk to an individual legislator to know exactly what that individual is thinking. But I can think of at least two off the top of my head, and that is one, that they don't agree with it personally, right? They don't think that increased gun control legislation is necessary or good or however they want to put it. And the other one is they're reflecting their constituents, right? We have a lot of places in the state of Michigan and across the country, very rural in nature, where firearms are used for multiple purposes, and those folks don't want to see any rolling back of the rights and liberties that they say they enjoy.
We're joined by Dave Dulio. He's a professor of political science and the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. And often in that debate that we're speaking on and related to gun issues, it dates back to protection of Second Amendment rights. And the Second Amendment quite explicitly states, quote, that you have the right to, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Back in 1791, when that was written, and the Bill of Rights was ratified, what did that mean then, and what interpretation is generally being so protected in today's world, being that our gun situation today is significantly different, significantly more powerful, and much more broadly utilized by Americans than it was back when it was ratified way back in 1791, or even in the early days of this country?
Sure. Well, I think the answer to your question lies in some recent Supreme Court decisions, and that is that that it extends beyond a militia, right? It is a personal and individual right to keep and bear arms, right? I mean, and that's where the court is right now. That's where the law is right now.
We're joined by Dave Dulio, professor of political science and director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University, joining us today on the Megacast. Across the board here in Michigan and federally, there are a number of other political issues that are on the forefront, and other political topics that are going to be on the forefront in 2022, including here in Michigan, our gubernatorial election coming up next year. Since we last spoke, Kevin Rinke, a business owner of Rinke Automotive Group, announced that he's running as a Republican for governor, for Michigan's next governor. He was a Trump supporter as well, for greater context of where he stands within the Republican Party. What are his chances here in the state of Michigan, or at least within the Republican Party, of obtaining the nomination from the party and then competing with Governor Whitmer?
Well, let's start with the primary first, because anybody that's going to challenge the governor's got to get through that, right? And in August of 22, we will have a primary election, and Republicans and not just Republicans, anybody who wants to vote in the Republican primary for governor can here in Michigan because of our open primary system. But I think it's wide open. Mr. Rinke has some advantages. I think on the funding side is the biggest one of those, at least that is out there before us at the moment. I think it's interesting to consider former Chief James Craig's campaign. It's been pretty quiet in the last several months. The biggest news being that he split with one of his major advisors from the campaign. But quiet is what I would describe the Craig campaign at the moment. I think Mr. Rinke, as I said, has got some funding advantages, and that could really help carry him forward through the primary season, depending in part on what his opponents do. And Chief Craig is only one of them. There are a handful of others that are likely to make it a very interesting Republican primary. I think in the general, it really does depend who comes out of that Republican primary. 2022 is shaping up to be a bad year for Democrats. And I say that because of a couple of factors. One, the current political dynamics, right? The president is seeing his approval ratings sink. We've got inflation that is the highest in decades. We've got other issues that we're facing as a nation and a state. But I also say it because that's what history tells us. History tells us that the party of the president does poorly in midterm elections, which 2022 is, right? It comes at the midpoint of a president's term in office. And the reason for that, generally speaking, is that the president has been in office for a couple of years, and the country maybe has soured on the president's performance. The country is disappointed that the president maybe hasn't followed through with some campaign promises. And you can see that coming up, boiling up as well, right? And how often did we hear Joe Biden say he was going to shut down the virus? And I mean, maybe that was a mistake for him to say that, because there's, what can one person do? What can one government do to shut down a virus? And we're seeing maybe that come back to haunt him. So anyway, for whatever reason, right, the public is down on the president, but the president's not on the ballot in midterms. So where does the public turn to take out their frustration? Well, they turn to the candidates of the president's party. And for example, in only 2 elections back to the years of FDR, in only 2 elections has the party of the president gained seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Only twice in that period, right? In every other instance, they have lost seats, and sometimes they've lost huge numbers of seats. And I think in Michigan, we see that trickle down to the state level. And I say that because since 1976, only one time has the candidate of the president's party been elected governor. So that would tell us that Gretchen Whitmer's in for some, for a tough campaign, and maybe even to lose. However, and here's the interesting thing about Michigan politics, in that same time period, only one time has a sitting governor been denied re-election. So we have these 2 forces that are working against each other. And in November of 2022, we'll have to see which of those forces wins out.
We're joined by Dave Dulio, a political science professor and director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Dave, another minute with you before we'll say goodbye. I want to give you an opportunity to tell us about any upcoming events or discussions at the Center for Civic Engagement.
Sure. Well, thanks as always for the opportunity, Tyler. In the new year, look for the center to continue our office hours series, where we highlight faculty experts at Oakland University. We have a number of those lined up for the community and for campus on topics like politics, on topics like redistricting, the 2022 election cycle, the governor's race. We're also going to do one on inflation, the supply chain, and other economic issues that will and could affect the election cycle. And we've got some other things that are in the hopper and not ready to talk about those yet because the plans aren't finalized, but we'll have plenty for those who are interested to check us out in the new year.
Well, Dave, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, clarifying some of these issues that we're discussing here in the state of Michigan, and looking forward to 2022 and what will be a very interesting year politically here in the state of Michigan.
That's for sure. Thanks, Tyler.
We always enjoy having Dave Dulio on with us to talk about all things politics across the board, locally, statewide, and federally, and also to talk about everything that's going on over there at the Center for Civic Engagement, which is always encouraging people to have those civil conversations, those educated conversations, open conversations with people that they agree with, but also with people that they don't agree with. And especially in the times that we're in now with the debates that we're going to have, those tough conversations we're going to have as a community here in Oakland County and all throughout the state of Michigan, and even at the federal level, it's more important than ever that we learn to have those conversations productively and not get into a shouting match so that we can find solutions instead of create more problems. Well, big thank you, of course, to Dave Dulio, as well as all of our other guests, Dr. Melanie Schwartz from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness, Stacey Zakovich, who's collecting winter goods for those in our homeless and transient communities as well, and looking to donate them in mid-December. Barb Giles from Jewish Senior Life for joining us to talk about ways that we can help our senior and our older adult populations through this holiday season and beyond. Luther Keith from Arise Detroit, and of course Tracy Chirikas from the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. All of our guests on this Best of the Megacast. We'll return next week with new episodes. Again, you can watch us live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, all throughout Oakland County and across the state of Michigan, a number of different television, radio, and web outlets as well. You can learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link. That's also where you'll find all of our episodes, both full episodes and the individual interviews on demand, so you can watch them whenever it's most convenient to you, and whatever topics might be of most interest to you as well. We give you that choice. Again, civiccentertv.com/megacast. And as always, we encourage you to head over to our coronavirus page as well at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus so that you can stay up to date with reputable information from trusted expert resources at the Oakland County Health Division, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's COVID-19 pages. That's going to do it for this Best of edition of the Megacast. We'll return next week with new episodes beginning Monday live at 10 a.m.